We are now doing aspect 3 of Desjardins' third chapter of his Introduction to Business Ethics, in which there is a discussion of 5 models of social responsibility. We will look in this session at the philanthropic social responsibility model, minimal morality social responsibility model. And we'll also look at the criticisms of each of the models. So in the previous segment, we were introduced to the standard economic model. So we are now up to second and third of the social responsibility models. But let's do a bit of a summary of what we have done up to now anyway. So we have started thinking about social responsibility last time. For our purposes, a business model of social responsibility actually is socially responsible if it can be justified by Kantian or utilitarian morals applied to business. We have examined the standard economic model last time. According to that model, a firm is socially responsible if it maximizes profits without breaking laws. That is the shareholder priority model of thinking. Shareholders' interests take priority over everyone else's interest. The utilitarian justification was that this way the happiness of shareholders as well as that of consumers who likely get the least expensive product as a result of competition is maximized. And that means that happiness for the population as a whole is maximized, since everyone in the population is a consumer, right? The Kantian justification was that shareholders own the firm and that respect for autonomy requires that their will to maximize profits is done with their property. The criticism of the utilitarian model amounted to pointing out that maximization of profits encourages negative externalities, passing the costs on to others, such as not spending money to control pollution, as well as lobbying to make sure that such behavior is not outlawed. The criticism of the Kantian model amounted to pointing out that shareholders are not owners, since they have limited liability, as well as that autonomy of workers is not respected when they get paid as little as possible in order to maximize profits. Okay, let us look at the philanthropic social responsibility model first. Philanthropic model is the same as the economic model, with one addition. The firm must make donations and engage in charity to be truly socially responsible. It's not clear whether donations and charity are required out of the spirit of genuine beneficence or simply in order to improve the firm's reputation, to make it even more profitable, right? If we are going to make lots of donations and charity work, we earn a good reputation and we'll be able to sell even more of our products. So it's not clear whether philanthropic model captures genuine moral interest or whether it is simply along the lines of the standard economic model of maximizing profits any way possible. Right? So it is still very much a priority of the shareholder model, and the charity work is certainly not to cut into shareholder profits in any significant way. We can think of it as a long-term investment even. However, the important and interesting part about the philanthropic model is that it recognizes the moral inadequacy of the standard economic model and the need to go beyond the standard economic model. Perhaps the philanthropic model even recognizes the harm that the standard economic model does due to its relatively unhindered pursuit of profits and attempts to compensate for that harm with charity work. Let us look at the criticism of the philanthropic social responsibility model. The criticism is that the philanthropic model does not go far enough beyond the standard economic model and is subject to all of the same criticisms. It just does not morally cut it to produce negative externalities and wages that are as small as possible, and then to compensate for these and other harms in pursuit of maximal profits by engaging in charity. Is charity here simply bad conscience for lack of moral adequacy in the usual practices with standard economic model? Next, we've got the minimal morality social responsibility model. Minimal morality goes beyond the standard economic model and the philanthropic model by recognizing that a firm must not cause any harm in order to be socially responsible. The firm refuses to cause harm by its own intentional efforts, by the CEO, the leader, constantly steering the firm that way, not simply by obeying the laws that were passed by the public in order to limit the damages of the purely profit maximizing companies. So there's some intention here to do good, right? Well, not so much to do good, but simply to not do harm, not the same thing. So the company would choose not to engage in negative externalities seeking behavior since that harms the public. Well, looks like it's not going to be as harmful as the standard economic model. Perhaps the company would even raise the wages to workers from the bare minimum wages that it can get away with, right? Recognizing that very small wages do harms to workers. Still, even this model is the shareholder priority model, where the goal is to maximize profits for shareholders first and foremost. But the profits must be maximized without causing harm to other participants in the firm. Causing harm has a kind of a veto power here. Onto the criticism of the minimal morality social responsibility model. Criticism of the minimal morality model comes down to that it does not require the firms to bring about benefits and the good. It only requires firms not to cause harm. Utilitarian, after all, proposes that moral behavior must maximize happiness and not simply avoid suffering. And Kantianism argues that treating human beings as ends in themselves requires promoting their well being as much as is affordable. According to the minimum morality model, there's no obligation to produce benefits for everyone other than shareholders at all.